Good afternoon. I haven't made a video in a little while. I've been ill. A sort of illness where you can't really walk, so I haven't really gotten out too much. This is one of my first times out in nature, and as always, it's great to be out. We each deal with hate, and as usual, I'm fascinated where that hate comes from and why that hate exists. I believe everything can be traced back to an origin. It seems like if there's any younger viewers, you might not understand what I'm talking about, but you can make assumptions by looking back on recent history. But it seems like in the early 2000s, late 2000s, and the late 90s, we could be a lot more experimental in being humans. We could get away with a lot more. Now it feels like we're kind of judged by everything. If you go to a place and somebody has soy milk, they automatically judge you if you don't have soy milk because they think you're judging them. So it's kind of become a bit of a standoff in society. And hate is such a fascinating thing. The reason why I'm talking about this is because just as of recently, as of 2 days to recording this, my fiance went out. I won't say with who, whether friends or family. We'll say somewhere in between. And these people are not a fan of yours truly. And they find interesting little ways to discredit me as a human. And one of the ways was they asked her if she gets takeaways. And she said, yeah, sometimes. And they asked which ones. And she said, oh, we usually get Indian. And then they said, oh, that's because Aaron doesn't like spicy food. Now, the most interesting thing about this is they know that I love spicy food. They also know that arguably one of the parts was, why don't you ever get a Chinese? Indian food, I think, is more hotter overall in total, so we actually are getting the hotter dish. And then the other thing is the people who have made this comment are people who can't handle spicy food at all. And the fourth thing is, of course, the biggest glaring obstacle, if you like, is it doesn't matter if you don't like spicy food. You're allowed not to like spicy food. And the idea this is a diss, this is a gripe, this is something what somebody is looking for. I saw another YouTube video the other day. One of the YouTubers had his nails quite long, and also this guy was of a certain generation. He was part of a generation where you don't cut your nails straight away. The beauty standards of today is we cut our nails usually as they get long. Usually guys with long nails, it's not, people don't really like it in society. So my generation, we usually cut our nails, but he was part of a generation who don't cut nails. He's also an elderly man. He's a little bit ill, so he probably doesn't even have time, or doesn't even have the know-how. He probably doesn't look after himself as well as maybe our generation do. So this is the interesting thing about hate, and we all know this, but you only really come to terms with this when you get a little bit older and you start to develop this. When you get older and you sort of carve your own world out and you have your own little mini world, i.e. your family, it could be your children, it could be your partner, it could be your career, you stop caring so much about what everybody else is doing, and you stop caring about the attacks, what you face. The attacks will come all the way from school, because you go to school with a bag on and that bag's not trendy, or you have a badge and that badge isn't trendy. But it is just fascinating what people assume of you. And I myself, as I cut through society, I make snap judgments of people, and I assume things, but I never ever meet that person thinking that thing. I never ever make that person challenge my own beliefs. I just unconsciously, if what I believe isn't met in the conversation with said person, I just consciously discard that piece of information, the empathy kind of comes in. I've sat with people who just decide who I am based off nothing, based off what they believe. So I think a lot of the problem is it's just bad psychology. People believe I generally do think there's only a handful of people who generally have the good psychology and can generally navigate the world in a healthy way. And I think this is actually one of the things we need to actually work on as humanity as a whole. I think it should be taught at school, just basic psychology. I know people who are friends with extremely toxic people, and they just tell the story of how this toxic person is ruining their life, and then they just go back to work. They don't try and actively do anything about it. And the psychology they use is, well, we all must have a toxic friend, which is true. So there is truth in the psychology, but it's not psychology all the way. Or, I know people what have missed glaring issues about people. People what their behaviour is bordering on criminal, and people have decided to look the other way. I was trying to grab a leaf. I just saw a leaf just fly. I just tried to slow down time and grab it. So yeah, as of recently, a couple months ago, I've sat with another couple who they just piece together information about me which is so far from the truth. It's why I don't read comments, because even positive comments and even what aren't negative, they can put things in your head that don't exist. They can say things like, oh, you remind me of this guy, and then because it's a compliment, you're like, oh, maybe I am like that guy, and then you have to deal with that for the next half an hour. Am I like that guy? Who is that guy? And it's the same with hate. People will pick up on tiny little things, and they try to make them your insecurity. They try to make you guess. They put you in a situation where you have to try and guess at your own behaviour. So they sort of like passively hint at what they think is wrong with you. And I think the only way around this is to give. You see, criticism is a good thing. We need criticism. So, as I said in other videos, if these videos aren't to your liking and you prefer other formats, maybe you prefer somebody talking and you don't see their face, maybe you prefer somebody who gradually takes you through a process, a topic instead of talking, like I am now, stumbling over my words. When you do a more raw video like this, you have more of a chance to stumble over your words because I'm sort of forming what I'm deciding to say on the spot. So if these videos aren't for you, that's fine, and you can sort of move on. There's many videos what aren't for me, but I get bored of things. I'm very bored of the case study videos. Those big videos where they start off with eerie music, and then there's like video static, VHS static, and then we head in the direction. You only really find out the information at the very end of the 20-minute video. I used to love those videos, but now I don't. So that's my criticism, but that criticism comes out of myself, and I would never ever dismay people from watching them. I would never ever leave comments saying this is getting stale or whatever, because it's on me. I'm the person who's just I've moved on. There's some psychology at play, and what I'm saying, I believe there is some truth in it. These case study videos are getting a little bit boring because there's so many of them, but that's just every piece of content gets boring after a while. We're in an era now where there's no prank content, but that era will come back again. There'll be more prank content when the next generation comes into power. So I'm going to finish the video here. Hate is such a fascinating tool. We all make snap judgments, but I think majority of us, we need to assess our snap judgments. Some people let really good people leave their life. Some people let really toxic people stay in their life. I I have been judged for so many things what aren't even issues, from the coat I'm wearing to, you know, I could get a new jacket and somebody's like, oh, this person must have lots of money, they're wasting money. It is like we can't do anything right in society as of now, as of late. It is almost, as living as a person, you're going to get some flack from somewhere. And I believe that's also part of the reason why we're all so sort of scared. Because when you hear people talk about, I want to do this, it always comes with, but those people are like, those people are hated. Or, you know, say if you was to go, oh, I'm going to go get an iced latte at this cafe, somebody's going to go, well, probably me actually, they're going to go, like, that's just capitalism, you should go to independent chain, you know, those aren't trending anymore, those iced lattes, you can't get an iced latte in the winter, whatever it is. We're always talking ourselves out of doing the thing we desire to do. Okay, have a good week, enjoy yourselves out there, ignore the hate, yeah, enjoy the autumn. Adios.